going on, guys? Dirtsheet clocking in.
Good morning, fellas. I'm Showtime.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? DM here, and this is the Spoiler Alert Network. Today we're back with another top 5 discussion video, and today's topic is another video game one. We're going to be talking about top 5 video game series, which I'm actually kind of excited about because I feel like our lists are going to be pretty different. We're going to jump right into it. We're going to start with Dirtsheet.
Alright, so I would say the very first one on my top 5 list would be the WWE 2K games. And that is because I can spend a stupid amount of times on these games, and the only reason they beat the Raw vs. SmackDown games is for the Universe mode, where you can play through the weekly shows and the pay-per-views and control the outcomes of the universe. And I think that's really cool to be in control of the entire WWE roster. You can create superstars, you can move them around from show to show, create your own titles, create your own weekly shows, create rings, arenas, stuff like that. And it's just really cool, and really the universe mode made the entire game for me.
My number 5 is very different from what Dirtsheet had in mind. I'm thinking Gears of War, the whole series. I played the original trilogy a couple years ago, Gears 1, Gears 2, and Gears 3, and the storyline for those games is incredible. It focuses on a war between the coalition of order governments and their army facing the Locust Horde, who's trying to take over their planet, basically. And it's kind of like these beasts, I guess, would be the way to explain them. They're like alien-looking creatures, and the Gears, which is the army, they're fighting back this infestation. And this war was just one of the best storylines I've ever seen play out in a game series. And I feel like they should have ended Gears after Gears 3, but they went ahead and they made Gears Judgment, and they made Gears 4, and they made Gears 5. And they're fun games to play, but I don't think that the story compares to the first 3 games. That's why it's only number 5 on my list.
Number 5, I think I would have to agree with Dirtsheet on this. The 2K WWE games, not for the same reasons, which what he mentioned, that's awesome. It's great that you can influence how the universe goes, storylines and everything, but it's kind of a dumb reason. I've spent literally countless hours in the custom superstar side of it, just making... I've showed these guys the list. There's 50 plus custom characters, mostly like I made Marvel characters or DC characters, just whatever, just to mess around like for hours on end and just make my own storylines, which I've gotten the comment, I believe, from Showtime, why not just play Injustice or something like that. Well, because you can't have Batman fighting the Undertaker in Injustice. I mean, that's just not, unless you're...
Lobo's close.
Yeah, I suppose. But, I mean, that's just kind of a dumb reason. I just spent just stupid amount of time customizing my own characters, making my own, like, not even just existing characters like Batman and all that, but I know a lot of people do that, but that's kind of the reason they made my list, just because of the countless hours I spent on it. We'll move on to our number 4 picks.
So my number 4 pick is actually the Marvel Ultimate Alliance games. And I really enjoyed these games because, well, it's about superheroes. It's about the Marvel Universe, and I really like the comic books. But you get to really create and customize your own party of 4 heroes. And it ranges from all different factions, Fantastic Four and the Avengers, and there's just all kinds of heroes in here, and you can have just random ass parties that make no sense, heroes that you never thought you would see team up, villains teaming up with heroes. The first game I really liked, it was really good, but the second game is probably the strongest of them for me, and I really like the second game for the updated heroes, combat mechanics, and the new age graphics that it had.
Wait, Civil War storyline, that's what did it for me for that one. But
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah, I just had to bring that
It
up.
was a really weird take on it.
Yeah,
Whenever
but-
they transitioned to Nick Fury wanting to, consume the entire planet with the nanite technology.
Right.
But-
And another feature of it is when you choose a certain roster of heroes, you get bonuses. Like if you choose the Fantastic Four itself.
I never got the bonuses. I
Yeah,
threw
'cause,
random reject villains and heroes together.
And that's fun.
And Venom, Hawk, Thor, and, Spider-Woman. So,
Yeah, whatever.
Showtime?
My number 4 is, again, a different kind of choice. But I'm going with the Guitar Hero series.
Oh.
Oh. I'm a fan of Guitar Hero.
Yeah.
From Guitar Hero. Well, I honestly, I didn't play the first one. But Guitar Hero 2, Guitar Hero 3, Guitar Hero World Tour, 5, Warriors of Rock, Guitar Hero Live, which, not so much. But Guitar Hero 3 and 2 were two of my most played games ever. I put just ridiculous hours into Guitar Hero 3 when I was in high school, and I just got to the point where I thought I was really good, and then I watch a little Asian kid on YouTube play, and I just feel bad about myself.
Just Dragon Force. What was
Yeah.
Was that World Tour or was that 3?
That was 3.
Yeah. I could never.
It was
I
better
still
than me.
can't.
I'd change the settings to where I just had to hit the bar, and that was it. I
Big
couldn't
game
keep
mode?
up with the
Yeah.
buttons, so I'd be like, I f***ing rock, and I actually sucked.
Man, I didn't even think about that.
Guitar Hero is just... It's such a fun game that you could play just... Whether you don't know what you're doing at all or you're beyond an expert, you can constantly challenge yourself. Because there's always going to be somebody better than you. And just the constant challenge of it makes Guitar Hero one of the best game series to ever exist.
That's actually a really cool pick, because I forgot
I didn't
Guitar
even think
Hero was
about
ever
it.
a thing, honestly.
I mean, when I was in high school too, like me and my friends played all the time. I played drum set and stuff when I was in high school, and they played guitar, bass, whatever. And so when I played Guitar Hero and Rock Band and stuff like that, I was like, guys, we're great. Let's start a band. Like I just wanted to start a band, like, but because I thought the same thing. I thought I was great, but it's just a game. It's nothing compared to the real thing. I tried to pick up and learn guitar. Yeah, it's nothing.
I hit my brother with an acoustic guitar once when we were playing wrestling, and that's about it.
Jeff Jarrett.
So, yep. It didn't break, though. He just started bleeding. So,
He's still alive, right? He's good?
I think so. So, haven't talked to him in a couple weeks.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. Let's move on.
Brad, what do you got for your number 4?
The Grand Theft Auto series is my number 4 pick. It could be higher on the list, but it is the series that kind of revolutionized the open world gaming, especially with Grand Theft Auto 3. It was just ahead of its time. It was brand new. Like, it was amazing. That was actually the first game San Andreas was the first game I played, and then my cousin gave me Grand Theft Auto 3 to play after that. And I played that. I just kind of dabbled in San Andreas for a few hours when I went over to his house, and he's like, okay, you can have 3. That's fine. Go ahead, take it. So I started playing that, and it was one of the best games ever. I was too young to be playing it, too young to be seeing the stuff going on in it, like the rest of us, but it was a great game series. Like I said, started the whole open world aspect of what a ton of games follow today. And I can't say one is better than the other. There's great things about each game in the series, but overall I think that's definitely in my top 5 all the time. It always has been. So, we'll move on to number 3.
So, my number 3 pick is actually a very, very common series a lot of people know about now, is Elder Scrolls. Whenever I started gaming, I didn't have access to them as a kid, but I really jumped heavy into Oblivion. I even had the 6-inch book, the Book of Oblivion, that is like $75 anywhere you look for it now. And I would play for hours, and I still do. I go through yearly sessions where I want to play Oblivion, and down I had all the DLCs for it. The Shivering Isles DLC was tremendous. I love the fact that it took an open world game and gave you more world essentially. And then Skyrim is the same thing. I actually like Oblivion more than Skyrim. Skyrim is a tremendous game, but I feel like Oblivion is the stronger game of the series. And then for PlayStation and Xbox, or whenever they made mods available, that was really cool because it changed the complexion of the entire game. And the Elder Scrolls DLCs for Skyrim were really cool. I don't feel like they were as strong as Oblivion, but it was still a really cool game that I can play anytime I get bored. I can just be like, I don't have anything to play. Elder Scrolls Skyrim or Oblivion. Showtime?
All right, my number 3 pick is the Tony Hawk series. I just recently got back into playing the older games. Started playing on an emulator a couple months ago. Specifically for this page, I was going to be doing some content on it, and that just never came to fruition. But it was still amazing to go down memory lane and play Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1, Pro Skater 2, Pro Skater 3, Pro Skater 4. I played those specifically, but I still have to download the other games because Tony Hawk's Underground is one of my favorite games of all time. Underground 2 was not my cup of tea, but Underground 1 was amazing. And American Wasteland got a lot of mixed reviews, but I really liked American Wasteland. Then anything after that's trash. But anyway, playing Tony Hawk 1 was an amazing experience to go back and do in the present day, because I just remember playing that at my dad's house when I was a kid, and then playing Tony Hawk 2, I remember playing at my mom's house when I was a kid, and I just remember playing on every level, and the nostalgia that I had playing through it again was just, I don't know how to explain the tingles that I felt. I guess it's the first time I ever really felt nostalgia, and it made me feel old, but it just felt right. I don't know, it was just like my childhood, and that I played those games so much as a kid. I thought I could skate, like Brad was saying about starting a band, and I thought I could skate after playing Tony Hawk games, and I was horribly wrong. But I tried. That's what matters. What do you got for number 3?
The Fallout series is my number 3. It's made by Bethesda. Actually, the first, 2 games were not. I forget who made those, but Bethesda took over after Fallout 3 and on. Let's just not talk about Fallout 76, though, because...
I actually didn't know there was a Fallout 1 and 2. I thought it just started with Fallout 3.
I mean, it might as well have. But, no, it was... The first 2, it's great to look back on them. They're great games. But, overall, the Fallout series just... It's kind of scary in a way, just looking at a potential alternate future, just wasteland after nuclear fallout, and just exploring, trying to survive, just all the random things you can run into. You just don't expect each thing that'll pop up. And then especially in Fallout New Vegas, you have, I guess it's a perk you can actually get called Wild Wasteland, where just everything crazy can happen. There's a higher percentage of you seeing the most outlandish and weirdest things, but the game overall, it plays a lot like the Elder Scrolls games in some aspects. It's an RPG. You can customize your character, their appearance, what kind of gear you want to have, their level up different aspects of the character in true RPG fashion, but it's different. Most RPGs you see are set in like fantasy worlds, medieval times, but this is totally opposite. It's a future version of an alternate timeline in our American history, and it's just a great game series overall. I can't say I like it better than the Elder Scrolls series just because I got into it later, I guess, but it's a toss-up for those two for me. But overall, great series.
Alright, so my number 2 pick is actually a series that I am very passionate about, and that's the Dragon Age series. I'm very excited for the new game that is in the works right now. Starting with the first one, I was hooked from the very beginning. Now, Dragon Age Origins is it's a little older. It was a little rough. It was a grind, but it was really good story wise. The story of the game kept you gripped for the entire playthrough. You didn't give a shit about the shitty combat mechanics, the level up system that made virtually no sense, and the fact that it wasn't super open world, but it had such a good story about fighting Darkspawn, and every now and then there is what's called a blight, where they try to come up and take over the world, and have to fend that off, and you have to fight. It's called an archdemon, but it's a dragon. It's a damn dragon. If it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's probably a dragon. But so you fight this dragon that is the head of this massive horde of just alien like beings, and it takes place in medieval times. And I'm a dick because every the decisions you make in this game are really cool, and at the end of the game you can either be the hero to sacrifice yourself and save everybody, or have someone else do it. And I normally was like, hey, kill that thing and die so I can run off with this girl and be happy forever. And that's normally what I did. But the fact that the gameplay changes for everybody depending on the decisions you make is really cool. And then the second game jumped ahead leaps and bounds, essentially. It was a little more open world, and you seen the after effects of the blight, and it took you to a new area of the world also. And it's not, you don't get to be as creative creating your main character. They have a character name picked out for you, and then you get to play through their story. But it's still really cool to see the after effects of the blight and what goes on in Kirkwall, which is a completely different area of the world from where you were at in Ferelden. This game is actually probably my favorite of the series. And then the third game, Dragon Age Inquisition, was absolutely tremendous, and it again took leaps and bounds forward for the time that it was made, and it was pretty much open world. You got to go to different parts of the map, and they were huge. You got to explore for hours. The combat mechanics were phenomenal. I loved playing as it. A little broken, honestly, because as a mage you're pretty much unstoppable. But that's my number 2 pick.
Alright, my number 2 game series is the Fallout series. I jumped into the Fallout series with Fallout 3 when I was in high school, and then near the end of my high school career I jumped into Fallout New Vegas. And at the time, I didn't appreciate New Vegas for the gem that it is, because I was so burnt out from playing Fallout 3. But I went back and played New Vegas again a couple years ago. I think it was 2015. And that game is so incredibly immersive. There's so much you can do. There's almost no end to it. There's just always another side quest to do. There's always another legendary enemy to fight or something. There's just... Fallout New Vegas is one of my favorite games of all time, just for the sheer amount of replayability that you could just play it over and over and have a, not necessarily a brand new experience, but a slightly tweaked experience based on your choices and how you choose to play, whether it's heavy guns or small guns or an unarmed playthrough or melee weapons or explosives. However you choose to play will drastically affect your whole experience with the game. And then it comes down to who you side with in the end, whether you choose to side with Caesar's Legion or Yes Man, or side with the Brotherhood of Steel. And any of those 3 choices are both bad and good, depending on which side you choose. And just seeing the moral and ethical dilemmas that it would put the player in to choose one side over the other is just exquisite storytelling. And that's why New Vegas is one of my favorite games of all time, and why the Fallout series is my number 2 pick as a whole.
Okay, my number 2, I mentioned that I didn't like my number 3 as much for different reasons, not because it wasn't good, but my number 2 pick is the Elder Scrolls series, and that's just because my whole gaming career, the games I gravitate to most are fantasy RPGs or things like that, and story-based games, things like that. But I think it's mainly because I got into Elder Scrolls before I knew much about Fallout is the reason it's higher on my list, because I played more of it. When I started gaming, I really didn't have a whole lot of different options and things that I had explored. I heard everybody at school talking about Oblivion. Oh, Oblivion's the best game ever. It's so amazing. Like,
It's great.
what is Oblivion? And then I kind of got into it. I picked it up and just a little bit, not enough to appreciate it for what it is. But then later, I heard everybody talking about Skyrim. It's awesome. It's the greatest game ever. I'm like, what is this Skyrim? It's taking everybody's time. But I picked it up and to this day still haven't put it down. And I think it's largely due to mods and things like that, just the vast amount of things you can do, as long as you don't overload it with too much broken and overpowered things. Showtime?
Anime.
Yeah, but because that'll just lose the replayability and it'll burn you out real fast. But if you use moderate amount of mods and don't overdo it.
Or no mods if you want to do it right.
Yeah,
Vanilla.
Vanilla. But
You're going to be a boring piece of I guess.
yeah.
Come on, Master Chief. Let's get the fuck out of here.
But then the DLCs, like Dirtsheet said, they're not as great as Oblivion's were. Hearthfire. No, actually, Hearthfire was okay, just being able to build your own house and whatever. There just wasn't a whole lot of options in that regard.
I think it's weird that you can just walk up to random kids on the street and be like, I adopt you. And nobody in the universe of Elder Scrolls is opposed to this. There's no documentation. You don't need to check to make sure they're not in an orphanage. It's just grab the kid and go.
That is... you get arrested for that these days.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, don't do that.
Never, ever.
I don't give a fuck. I don't want your kids get kidnapped all day. I don't give a shit about your kids.
But, in any case, the Elder Scrolls series, great bunch of RPGs. I never picked it up back in the Morrowind days and things like that. The older games, like, I had no idea how long this series had been around and how successful it got until I heard friends talking about it, and I picked it up, and I've been hooked ever since. But that's the reason it makes my number 2 on my list. I think we're ready to reveal our number 1 picks.
Woo! Buckle up, boys. I've been waiting this entire video to talk about this game series.
I'm super excited. Let's go for
I'm
it.
ready.
Okay, so my number 1 pick is a very controversial series, and I know that they have made mistakes because BioWare and EA are shit. But the Mass Effect game series is my favorite game series of all time. Don't try to talk me out of it. You're not going to. Fuck off. It's my favorite game. Starting with Mass Effect 1, this game was, the series in general was revolutionary until they fucked it up. But in the first game, you play as Commander Shepard, and there's this futuristic technology, and we've discovered Mass Effect technology that enables us to go from galaxy to galaxy. You discover other races, and it opens up entire solar systems for you to go to explore. And this game is tremendous for the fact that every decision you make carries over to the next game and affects the universe as a whole. And the play style can be different for every single player. You could make completely different choices and save completely different people, do completely different things, and get completely different dialogue options even in the next game for choices that you made in the previous game. I've spent hours playing this game. I think Mass Effect 1 I spent like 87 hours easily just exploring, because you can go to any planet in any solar system pretty much and be like, I want to land here and I want to explore. There might not be much there. It might just be dirt and stuff. I don't know. Dirt poop. But you can just drive around on this planet, and then everything you do in Mass Effect 1 you can transfer over to Mass Effect 2. And they kind of took the open world exploration away in Mass Effect 2. It was still a good game for what it was, but the combat mechanics were upgraded a little bit. The graphics were better, but they took away you can't explore every planet. You can scan them and launch probes to pick up stuff, however that works, I guess. I don't know if probes have hands, but and then again, thanks Barry. And then again in the second game, every decision you make from the first and the second game, transfer over to the third one. And this is where it gets dicey. The third one was rough. It was a good game. It was a really good game, except for the ending. The ending of the third game, without spoiling it for anybody, made you feel like all the decisions you made in the prior 2 games leading up to this moment were completely useless. It made it feel like you'd done all of this for absolutely nothing. It gave us a very foggy end. We didn't know the outcome and the shape of the universe after you defeat the Reapers. And EA did pull a pay to complete and released alternate endings as a DLC, which I paid for shamelessly, but shamefully. And it did change the aspect of the game. It gave you more closure, really. And what I idolize about this series is the fact that before it was a real big thing, they made transferring your character from one game to the next, the decisions over to the next, and it really made this universe unique to each player. And as I said, your universe can be completely different from somebody else's because you chose to play a different style. Mass Effect Andromeda, I also think it's a tremendous game, aside from the fact that they discontinued the series. But it gets a lot of heat as well. The whole series is very controversial, but for the story aspect and the revolutionary gameplay of transferring the same character through 4 separate games is amazing. Showtime?
Totally different game style I'm going for my number 1. I'm sure that everybody who has ever picked up a controller and played a video game has played Super Mario.
Never.
You're a yeah. Super Mario, from the beginning, has been the greatest game series of all time. That's just how it is. It's lasted since the 80s. Super Mario 2, 3, Mario Kart, Mario Tennis. Can Sonic and Mario go to the Olympics?
How do Goombas hold bats with no hands?
How? I don't know. I don't know how they do
Force.
it.
They're telepathic.
Speed
Has
Force.
to be.
It's the Speed Force.
No, never mind, it's Speed Force.
For sure. And then we get into the newer games like Super Mario Sunshine. Well, that was 15 years ago. Well, Super Mario Sunshine exists, and that's one of the greatest games ever made. And then there's Super Mario Galaxy and Super Mario Odyssey on the Switch. Super Mario Odyssey is one of my favorite games of all time, for sure. It's definitely my top 10. But Super Mario 64 on the Nintendo 64 is probably the most perfect game that will ever exist in our lifetime. And this is one of the first games I played when I was a kid. And I played through it again when I was a teenager. I think I played through it 8 times in a row, collecting all 120 stars, doing everything there was to do in the game, 8 times in a row. And I didn't think it got any less fun each time I did it. I enjoyed playing every aspect of Super Mario 64, as I've enjoyed every version of any Mario game I've ever played. And I don't think anybody can discount the fact that Mario is a trailblazer, and he's bigger than video games. There's been movies, there's been TV shows. He's got a mobile game. He's got everything. Mario is just the OG, and he's opened the door for so many different styles of games, and he's inspired other platforming games like the Yoshi games and the Little Big Planet games, which are also amazing. And there's just no way to discount Mario's effect on pop culture in general.
Yeah, I noticed. Thanks for bringing that up. I noticed we didn't give Nintendo a whole lot of love in this video, and that's... Nintendo games are great. I personally, growing up, I didn't have a lot of access to Nintendo games until I got older, but I mean, definitely shout out to Legend of Zelda series, Pokemon series, and especially Mario. He's one of the most iconic video game characters of all time. I agree. So it's tough for me to follow that up.
Are you real stealthily doing honorable mentions right now?
Oh my god!
I might be.
You just stealthily mentioned an entire game company, not even a series.
Yeah.
Just honorable mention Nintendo.
Exactly.
All
So,
right.
I figured I'd try to
Big
sneak
meaty
that past you.
thwop.
I'll allow it one time.
Okay. But speaking of stealth, my number one series on this list has to be Assassin's Creed. Maybe not the newer games. It kind of just lost it for me, but I think I'm just a sucker for story-based games. And the original Assassin's Creed game, just the overall backstory, the whole thing of it is it's set in the modern day, and there's this company who finds a way. They develop a machine to access the DNA of somebody to go back and view memories from their ancestors. And the whole theory is evolution through ancestral memories through DNA. Like, how do birds know how to fly when they're born? How do we know how to do whatever as we age? And it's through DNA. So they use the DNA sequencing, they go back and they can view memories from the ancestors of whoever is in this machine called the Animus. And this is not necessarily a good thing. This company, Abstergo, they're after these ancient artifacts left behind from a previous civilization that was wiped out by a catastrophic event called Pieces of Eden. And basically, if they get a hold of those, they can rule the world. They can control the minds of everyone to do whatever they want, to whatever sick, twisted means. Just the whole idea that there was a precursor race that came before us. They were wiped out, and we rose from the ashes of that. It's just a cool concept. But the first few games, gameplay-wise, they're okay. Like, the gameplay of the entire series is okay. It's not the most revolutionary. It's not the greatest. Choices from the previous game, they don't affect the next game necessarily. It's a constant story. It is, and that's okay. The first game was a little repetitive. If it wasn't for Assassin's Creed 2 and Brotherhood and so on, the series probably would have died. But just from kind of a nostalgia point of view, it has been around a little bit. It's one of my favorite series. It used to be. It's in recent times it hasn't had the greatest track record, and I think it suffered a lot because they tried to pump out a title every year. And when they took a break before they released Origins, they rehashed everything. They changed the whole gameplay, the combat system, everything. It still holds up today. There's a few flops in there, but overall it's one of my favorite game series because of how well it's aged for the most part, and just the overall story of it is just engaging. I mean, I guess my reasons aren't as good as Showtime's for my number one, but I mean, we each have our own preference for video games. I'm not discrediting anybody's choices. It all comes down to what you prefer. Everyone is different when it comes to gaming, and I think that's what makes gaming in general fun. So, any final thoughts?
I think you nailed it. I mean, everybody has different picks whenever it comes to gaming. My favorite game series is a series made by a company, and we all have our preferences. So,
But to be fair,
to be fair,
Ubisoft is getting to be just as bad as EA
so
with the money grabbing. So
Yeah, there's that.
Ubisoft is catching up.
and I feel like I need to correct myself because the Mass Effect Andromeda series was not discontinued. It was just shelved indefinitely for a while, even though talks are heating up. So, but I'm not going to get my hopes up.
What can you do?
Not buy EA games.
Yeah. Talk with your wallet, bro.
Oh,
Keep buying the games. They're going to keep on putting out the ones.
but that's our discussion. Let us know what you think. I'm sure you guys have completely different lists, and we really want to hear about it. This is an exciting topic for us. As you can tell, we've been going hard with the video game content. So just leave a like, comment, subscribe. Make sure to let us know what you want to see next. We got plenty more top 5 content coming soon, and as well as all our other content we've been working hard on, and we hope you enjoyed it. And we'll see you next time right here on the Spoiler Alert Network.